Do you believe that an 11-year-old girl could disappear for 18 years without anyone discovering her whereabouts? A normal day, a familiar morning, and then J.C. Lee Dugard's world was turned upside down forever. A story that seemed like something out of a nightmare became a horrifying reality. One you won't be able to look away from. But what's even more astonishing isn't just what she endured, but how she rose above it all to reclaim her life. Let's uncover this unbelievable story together. California, the land of dreams with its sprawling beaches, vibrant cities, and dazzling lights, is often seen as a symbol of freedom and opportunity. But beneath that facade lies another world, a place where the shadows of crime can penetrate even the safest of places. In the summer of 1991, a horrifying story unfolded in the quiet town of South Lake Tahoe, nestled in the Sierra Nevada mountains. This is the story of J.C. Lee Dugard, an 11-year-old girl who experienced unimaginable horrors. South Lake Tahoe, where J.C.'s family lived, was a small, close-knit community with simple homes and friendly neighbors. Her family had moved there hoping to find a safer place to raise their children. J.C. was a lively and lovable girl, full of the innocent dreams of an 11-year-old. But on the morning of June 10, 1991, those dreams were shattered by an unforeseen tragedy. That morning, J.C. woke up early to prepare for school. She wore her favorite pink shirt, grabbed her backpack, and set off for the bus stop, just a short walk from her home. For J.C., it was just another ordinary morning. But for someone lurking nearby, it was the opportunity they had been waiting for. As J.C. walked along the quiet road, a gray car suddenly pulled over beside her. The man inside rolled down the window, pretending to ask for directions to grab her attention. In a split second, J.C.'s innocence brought her closer to the car. But instead of a simple question, she was met with the shock of a stun gun. J.C. collapsed, unable to resist. A woman stepped out from the passenger seat, quickly scooping her up and shoving her into the car. Their names were Philip and Nancy Garrido, and they had meticulously planned this crime. The car sped away, leaving behind a shattered family and a stunned community. J.C.'s stepfather, Carl Probin, witnessed the entire abduction from their home's window. He tried to chase the car, but it disappeared too quickly. Rushing back to call the police, he could do nothing but face the painful reality. The little girl he loved as his own daughter was gone. The police arrived swiftly at the scene. News of the abduction spread rapidly across local broadcasts. The entire community joined the search. They scoured every corner using helicopters, search dogs, and every resource they had. But there was no trace of J.C. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. South Lake Tahoe, once a symbol of tranquility, became a hub of fear and suspicion. Pink ribbons were tied everywhere as a reminder of J.C.'s disappearance, and a fragile symbol of hope that she might still be alive. But hidden in the shadows of empty streets and shuttered houses was the haunting question. How could a young girl be abducted in broad daylight without leaving any clues? Who was behind this crime, and why did they choose J.C.? These unanswered questions lingered for years, becoming the focus of a nearly 2-decade-long search. Elsewhere, J.C. awoke in a dazed state, realizing she was in a completely unfamiliar place. She was bound and locked in a small, dark room. No one could hear her cries for help. For J.C., this was only the beginning of an unimaginable nightmare. While her community continued their relentless search and held on to hope, far away, J.C. was trapped in darkness, held captive by a twisted man with a deranged mind and sinister plans. Despite her family and friends' unwavering efforts, could they ever overcome a crime so meticulously concealed? J.C.'s story is not just about an abduction. It's about stolen innocence, a family's anguish, and the darkness that can exist even in seemingly peaceful places. When J.C. disappeared, no one knew she would become the center of one of the most harrowing cases in modern history. And for the next 18 years, the question wasn't just whether J.C. was still alive, but what she had endured in that darkness. And this is where the Rayal story begins. A young girl's journey from abduction and captivity to an unyielding hope that refused to die. J.C. awoke in a daze, realizing she was no longer in a familiar place. Around her was a cramped, dark, suffocating space. A nauseating stench emanated from old, decaying objects, and the only sounds she could hear were the groans of metal whenever the door rattled. She had no idea where she was, but the overwhelming fear tightening in her chest was unmistakable. When Philip Garrido entered, he wore a twisted, sickening smile. He told her she was no longer J.C. Lee Dugard. From now on, she would be called by a new name, Elisa. His words were not just about changing her name, they were an attempt to erase her identity entirely. At just 11 years old, J.C. faced a reality no one could ever imagine. She was imprisoned in a small soundproof shed in the backyard of Philip and Nancy Garrido's home. There was no way to escape or cry for help. The silent walls became her only companions in the endless darkness. In those first days, J.C. was tied tightly to a metal chair. She was not allowed to move, speak, or even cry. Philip, with his warped gaze, repeated over and over that she no longer belonged to the outside world, that no one cared about her, and her family had abandoned her long ago. He wasn't just holding her captive physically. He sought to control her mind entirely. Each day, he gave her a small amount of cheap fast food or leftovers from his own meals. J.C. was forced to use a bucket as a toilet, with no privacy or dignity left intact. As time passed, loneliness became an unbearable burden for J.C. She longed for her mother, her beloved home, and the eager mornings heading to school. But each time she thought of these things, despair consumed her even more, as she questioned if she would ever return. Philip frequently visited her, bringing threats or engaging in acts J.C. wished to erase from her memory. He was not just her captor. He embodied her worst nightmare. Nancy Garrido, the woman who had helped Philip abduct J.C., played a complicated role. While she did not directly abuse J.C., she was fully complicit in everything Philip did. Nancy brought food, clothes, and supplies, but in J.C.'s eyes, she was no less a foe. Nancy never attempted to help J.C. escape. Instead, she reinforced Philip's control by pretending to care. J.C. understood that in this household, there was no ally to be found. Time lost all meaning in J.C.'s world. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. At one point, Philip, in a rare moment of kindness, gave her a small television. It became her only connection to the outside world, but even that was controlled. Philip only allowed her to watch shopping channels or religious programs he favored. She was forbidden from watching the news and had no idea that outside, her family and the community were desperately searching for her. Back in South Lake Tahoe, J.C.'s mother, Terry Probin, never gave up hope of finding her daughter. She organized search campaigns, sought help from the community, and launched fundraising initiatives. Yet, despite all efforts, no leads emerged. As time passed, her greatest fear was the question of whether her daughter was still alive. Meanwhile, J.C. began to realize that she was not just a victim. She had to learn to survive. This meant abiding by Philip's rules, even though they suffocated her spirit. She stopped screaming or crying, knowing it only worsened her situation. Instead, she observed, listened, and waited. A part of her clung to the hope that one day, she would be free. When J.C. turned 13, a life-altering event occurred. She discovered she was pregnant, something she neither wanted nor was prepared for. Philip, instead of taking her to a hospital, arrogantly claimed he could assist her delivery. He studied TV shows and books, then made J.C. his patient under the worst possible conditions. On the day she gave birth, physical pain merged with emotional turmoil. But when she heard her baby's first cries, J.C. realized that, no matter how horrific her circumstances, this child gave her a reason to keep going. J.C.'s second child was born when she was 16. By then, she had more experience caring for her children, and they became her greatest motivation in her confined life. Philip, with his twisted mentality, believed that J.C. having children would ensure she never attempted to escape. He built a larger tent in the backyard to provide more space for her and the children. Yet, even with slightly more freedom to move around, J.C. remained under his control. Despite living in a personal hell, J.C. never forgot who she was. She held on to memories of her family, her home in South Lake Tahoe, and her true identity. These memories became a beacon of light in the darkness, guiding her through days that felt endless and hopeless. The outside world, where her family tirelessly searched, seemed impossibly far away. Yet JC didn't know that her mother's unwavering efforts and the community's dedication would eventually shine a faint light that would lead her back. After 18 years swallowed by darkness, JC didn't know that outside, her family and the community never stopped searching for her. Her mother, Terry Probin, turned her pain into determination, clinging to the hope that one day, JC would return home. Flyers with JC's image were printed and distributed everywhere, from small towns to large cities. Television programs repeatedly aired stories about her disappearance, urging people to come forward with any information. But as time passed, months turning into years, the hope of many outside JC's family began to fade. Yet Terry never gave up. She organized fundraisers and rallied the community to join the search efforts. Pink ribbons, JC's favorite color, were tied to lampposts, fences, and trees throughout the area, serving as a constant reminder that the little girl was still missing. To Terry, these ribbons were more than a symbol of love and remembrance. They were a way to keep her daughter's story alive. While others slowly accepted the possibility that JC might never return, Terry held firmly to her belief that her daughter was still alive. This unwavering persistence wasn't without challenges. Terry faced doubts and criticism on numerous occasions. Some people began speculating that JC's stepfather, Carl Probin, might have been involved in the abduction. As the last person to see JC before she vanished, he became the subject of intense scrutiny. Police conducted thorough investigations and administered lie detector tests, all of which Carl passed. There was no evidence linking him to the crime. Yet, the rumors and suspicion weighed heavily on JC's family. They not only had to endure the pain of losing a loved one, but also the judgmental eyes of society. Meanwhile, in a completely different world, JC remained confined in the Garridos' backyard. The two children she had given birth to under unimaginable circumstances had become her only solace. JC taught herself how to care for them by observing programs on the small TV Philip had provided. She fashioned toys from scraps, taught her children letters and numbers from bits of paper she collected, and tried to provide them with as normal a life as possible. The children, unaware of the outside world, believed Nancy was their biological mother and that JC was just an older sister. Philip Garrido maintained absolute control. He often claimed that the outside world was dangerous and that if JC or her children ever tried to leave, they would be destroyed. JC understood that his goal was not just to instill fear, but also to make her entirely dependent on him, both physically and mentally. Yet, despite everything, JC held onto a sliver of hope that one day, she would be free. In 2009, 18 years after JC's abduction, an unexpected chain of events unfolded. In a delusional religious fervor, Philip decided to take JC's two daughters to the University of California, Berkeley. He aimed to preach about his bizarre visions, seeking recognition as a prophet. Unbeknownst to him, this act would become the turning point that led to his downfall. At the university campus, Philip encountered Lisa Campbell, a program coordinator. Lisa immediately sensed something was off. Philip appeared out of place and displayed strange behavior, but it was the two girls accompanying him that raised her concern. The children looked pale, with averted gazes and an unusual shyness. When Lisa asked about their identities, Philip evaded the question, only stating that they were his daughters. His vague response didn't convince her. Trusting her instincts, Lisa reported the encounter to Philip's parole officer. Upon receiving the report, parole officers acted swiftly. Philip, a registered sex offender under close supervision, was now suspected of living with minors. Authorities summoned him to appear with his family. The next day, Philip brought JC and her two daughters to the parole office. When questioned about her identity, JC, following years of conditioning, introduced herself as Elisa. She feared that any defiance might worsen the situation. However, the parole officers persisted. They interrogated Philip and found inconsistencies in his story. After hours of questioning, JC finally broke down and admitted that she was JC Lee Dugard, the girl who had been missing for 18 years. Her words shattered the curse of silence that had lasted nearly 2 decades. JC and her daughters were rescued, and her story began to unfold. When news of JC's rescue broke, it gripped the entire nation. For her family, it was a miracle they had waited 18 long years for. JC's mother, Terry, couldn't hold back her tears when she was reunited with her daughter. The reunion was the culmination of a long journey marked by pain, but also love and unshakable hope. Philip and Nancy Garrido were arrested shortly thereafter. In court, the horrifying crimes they had committed over 18 years were brought to light. Philip was sentenced to 431 years in prison, while Nancy received a 36-year sentence. Justice was finally served, but the scars left on JC's life were indelible. After her rescue, JC embarked on a new journey. She had to learn to reintegrate into a world that had changed dramatically since she disappeared. More importantly, she had to confront the deep psychological trauma she had carried for years. With the support of her family and professionals, JC began rebuilding her life. She wrote a memoir to share her story, not only as a form of healing but also to inspire others. JC Lee Dugard, after 18 years of captivity in darkness, had found the light. Her story is not just one of tragedy but a testament to the power of love, hope, and the indomitable will to survive. After JC was freed, it felt like her life had to start over. She was no longer the innocent 11-year-old girl from years ago, but a grown woman with 2 young daughters. The world outside, though full of light, was utterly unfamiliar to her. The loud sounds of modern life, the vast streets, and the unfamiliar faces left JC feeling both overwhelmed and scared. For 18 years of captivity, the only world she knew was the overgrown backyard and the ramshackle tents Philip had constructed. The reunion with her family was an emotional moment. Seeing her mother for the first time in so many years, JC cried like a child. Terry held her tightly, afraid that if she let go, JC might disappear again. Yet, she also realized that the daughter she held in her arms was no longer the girl she once knew. The years of lost freedom had left deep scars on JC, not just on her body but in her soul. JC's 2 daughters, who had only known life in darkness, now had to adapt to an entirely new world. They knew nothing about schools, friends, or even basic social interactions with strangers. Although JC's love for her children was boundless, she couldn't help but worry about the impact of their past experiences on their future. Despite her fears, she was determined to give them a better life, the life they deserved. JC began attending therapy sessions to confront the horrifying memories she had buried for 18 years. Nightmares of Philip, the small shed, his threats, and his twisted gaze continued to haunt her. But rather than letting fear control her, JC gradually learned to face and overcome them. Each day, she found a bit of strength in the love of her family and the support of those around her. She decided to share her story, not to elicit pity but to send a message. Her story, though filled with pain, was also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. JC wanted others who had endured suffering to know they were not alone. Writing her memoir became a form of healing for her. Each page allowed her to peel back a layer of memory, confront it, and then lay it to rest. Her book not only chronicled her stolen life but also detailed her journey of rediscovery. When JC's memoir was published, it caused a public outcry. Her account wasn't just a personal story but a powerful reminder of the dangers children could face, even in seemingly safe environments. It also exposed glaring flaws in the system for monitoring sex offenders, which had allowed someone like Philip Garrido to continue his crimes unchecked. JC didn't stop at telling her story. She began participating in campaigns to raise awareness about child protection and supporting survivors of abuse and violence. She appeared on television programs, spoke at social organizations, and even founded her own foundation to aid victims. JC, once silenced, had reclaimed her voice, not only for herself but for those who couldn't speak out. Though she had found freedom, JC understood that her journey was far from over. The years of captivity left indelible scars, but she refused to let them define her. She chose to look forward rather than let the past hold her back. She chose to live, not just to survive, but to truly embrace the beauty of life that had once been stolen from her. What do you think of JC's story? Could the criminal monitoring system have done more to prevent tragedies like this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story thought-provoking, hit the like button to help spread the message to others. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories. And now, are you ready to dive into the next story with me? See you soon.